Okay, so you woke up this morning, you slept, what, 7, maybe 8 hours, and you still felt like you got hit by a truck. Not a dramatic, I'm dying kind of tired. Just this heavy, this thick, wrapped in wet concrete tired that doesn't go away after your first coffee or your second, and you've been chalking it up to stress, to your job, to your kids, to life. But here's the thing that's been nagging at me, and I want you to really think about this. It's not just the tired, it's the fog, the brain fog where you sit down to do something, and by the time you open the tab, you forgot why you opened it. Where you're in a conversation and you lose the word, a normal word, a word you've used 1,000 times, just gone. It's your skin doing weird things. Breaking out when you haven't had a breakout in years, or going really dry, really flaky on your shins, your elbows, like no amount of lotion is fixing it. It's that dull ache right in the middle of your back, slightly lower than your shoulder blades, and you've been blaming your office chair for 6 months, but you bought a new chair and it's still there. It's the puffiness in your ankles by 3 in the afternoon. You look down at your feet and something just looks off. Your rings feel tighter. Your face looks a little rounder in photos and you think, okay, I've been eating bad, but you cleaned up your diet 2 weeks ago and it's still happening. And one more thing, and this one's going to sound strange, there's something going on with your taste. Food just doesn't taste right lately, or your appetite is down, or there's this faint metallic thing happening in your mouth that you can't quite explain. None of that is random. Every single one of those things, the fatigue, the fog, the swelling, the back pain, the skin, the taste, they are connected, and they are your body speaking to you in the only language it has. Today we're going to learn how to listen. Segment 2, the reveal plus vitamin D connection. Now, here's where I have to stop for a second and be really honest with you about what this video is actually about. Because the title says carnivore diet and vitamin D. And yes, we're going to get there in depth with the actual science. But I had to start there with those symptoms. Because if I just opened with, hey, let's talk about fat-soluble vitamins, half of you would click off thinking this doesn't apply to you. It applies to you. According to the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, this is CDC data, so over 40% of American adults are deficient in vitamin D. 40%. That's not a niche problem. That's nearly half the country walking around with a deficiency that touches almost every system in their body, and most of them have no idea. Their doctor checked a box on a routine panel. The number came back slightly low, and they got told to maybe take a supplement and go outside more. So, in the can. And they tried that. Maybe you tried that. You bought a bottle of vitamin D3 from the drugstore, took it for a month, felt nothing or marginal. And you thought, well, I guess supplements don't work for me. Here's what your doctor didn't have time to explain. And I say that with zero judgment toward doctors because they have 11 minutes per patient. It's a systemic problem, not a personal one. Here's what didn't get explained. Vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it's a hormone, a steroid hormone technically. And like all hormones, it doesn't just walk into your body and start working. It has to be activated. It goes through a two-step conversion process, first in your liver, then in your kidneys. And it needs specific cofactors to do that job. Magnesium, vitamin K2, zinc, adequate dietary fat for absorption, the right ratio of calcium to phosphorus. And here's the kicker, the thing that makes the carnivore diet specifically fascinating in this conversation, almost every single one of those cofactors is either absent from the modern processed food diet or is being actively depleted by it. So you could be taking 5,000 IUS of vitamin D a day and still be functionally deficient because the infrastructure isn't there. Your body is trying to run a program that needs 6 different files and it only has 2 of them. That's what we're fixing today. Segment 3, agitation phase, what deficiency really does. Let me tell you what chronic vitamin D deficiency actually does to your body over time, because I don't think most people understand the scope of this. And I want to be real with you, not scare you, not catastrophize, but give you the actual picture so you understand why this matters enough to make a change. In the short term, 6 months, a year of moderate deficiency, what you're feeling is that symptom list we just went through. The fatigue, the mood stuff, the aches. Your immune system starts getting sluggish. You catch more colds. Wounds heal slower. You feel kind of dimmer, like the volume on life has been turned down. Over 2 to 3 years, it starts affecting your bones. And not in the dramatic way you might be picturing, not fractures yet necessarily, but your bone mineral density is dropping quietly without symptoms. Your body is pulling calcium from your bones to keep your blood calcium normal because there isn't enough vitamin D to manage calcium absorption from food. This is literally how osteoporosis begins. Not with a fall, not with a crack. With years of your skeleton being quietly cannibalized to keep your blood chemistry balanced, your muscles start weakening. This is a real measurable phenomenon called vitamin D myopathy. People in their 40s and 50s who feel like they're aging faster than they should, who feel weak in ways they can't explain, who have balance problems, vitamin D is often a piece of that puzzle. And then there's the immune system stuff, which I think is the most underappreciated piece of this entire conversation. Vitamin D receptors, and I want you to really sit with this, vitamin D receptors exist on almost every immune cell in your body. T cells, B cells, natural killer cells, macrophages. When your vitamin D is adequate, these cells function properly. They know the difference between a pathogen and your own tissue. They activate when they should and stand down when they should. When vitamin D is chronically low, that signaling gets scrambled. Your immune system starts becoming, and there's really no better word for this, confused. And confused immune systems do things like attack joints, attack thyroid tissue, fail to catch abnormal cells before they become something more serious. The research on vitamin D and autoimmune disease is genuinely staggering. A 2022 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and this was a large, well-designed randomized controlled trial called the VITAL study, found that vitamin D supplementation reduced autoimmune disease incidence by 22%. 22%. That's not a marginal number. Now, let me talk about something I really want to get into. And this is where I need you to stay with me because it's going to connect everything. The relationship between vitamin D and metabolic health. Because here's the thing that's become clear in the research over the last decade. Vitamin D deficiency and insulin resistance are deeply, tightly linked. Vitamin D helps regulate insulin secretion from the pancreas. It helps improve insulin sensitivity at the cellular receptor level. So when you're chronically deficient, your cells become more resistant to insulin. You need more insulin to do the same job. And higher insulin levels drive fat storage, particularly abdominal fat. And adipose tissue, body fat, actually sequesters vitamin D. It pulls it out of circulation and holds on to it. So you end up with this brutal cycle. Low vitamin D leads to higher insulin resistance leads to more body fat leads to lower circulating vitamin D. The heavier someone is, the worse their vitamin D status tends to be, and the worse their vitamin D status, the harder it is to lose weight. This isn't about willpower. This isn't about not trying hard enough. This is biochemistry running a loop that nobody told you about. Pause, take a breath. Actually slow down here. Matsi, so okay. Actually, let me back up for a second because I jumped ahead and I want to make sure this next part lands right. Before we talk about the carnivore solution, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this, I want to walk you through the 7 main ways vitamin D deficiency shows up in your body. Because a lot of people are sitting on a real deficiency and they don't know it. And I want you to be able to look at this list and either say, okay, I'm good, or say, I need to take this seriously. We're going to do the signs one at a time. And for every single one, I'm going to give you something you can actually do about it. Not a vague suggestion, a real action. Let's go. Sign number 1, fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. We started here, right? The tired that isn't fixed by rest. And I want to explain why vitamin D specifically causes this because it's not a fuzzy, indirect thing. The mechanism is real and it's documented. Vitamin D plays a direct role in mitochondrial function. Your mitochondria are the energy-producing structures inside your cells. Every cell, including your muscle cells, your brain cells, when vitamin D is adequate, mitochondria produce ATP, that's cellular energy, work efficiently. When it's deficient, that process slows. You literally have less cellular energy available, not metaphorically, biochemically. On top of that, vitamin D regulates serotonin synthesis. Low vitamin D, lower serotonin. Lower serotonin affects sleep quality, mood, and pain sensitivity. So you sleep longer, but your sleep architecture is worse. You're spending spending less time in the deep restorative stages. What you can do today: get your vitamin D level tested, not guessed at, tested. Ask your doctor for a 25-hydroxy vitamin D blood test. This is the standard test and it's usually covered by insurance. You're looking for a number, your serum level in nanograms per milliliter. Most conventional labs say anything above 20 is normal. I want you to know that many researchers and clinicians who specialize in this area consider optimal to be between 50 and 80 nanograms per milliliter. There's a real difference between not technically deficient and optimal for cellular function. So write that number down. Know it. That's step one. Sign number two: frequent illness/slow recovery. You know those people who catch every bug that goes around the office? Every cold their kids bring home turns into a 2-week thing for them, when the kid was over it in 3 days. That pattern, chronic susceptibility to illness, slow recovery, that's one of the most consistent markers of vitamin D deficiency I know of. Here's why: mechanistically, vitamin D triggers the production of something called cathelicidin. It's an antimicrobial peptide, basically your immune system's first responder. It punches holes in bacterial and viral membranes before your adaptive immune system even has to get involved. Without adequate vitamin D, cathelicidin production drops. Your first line of defense gets weaker, and separately, vitamin D helps regulate inflammatory cytokines. You've probably heard cytokine storm over the last few years. That's what happens when your immune system overreacts and starts causing collateral damage. Vitamin D is one of the things that puts the brakes on that response. Without it, inflammation runs longer and harder than it needs to. What you can do today: if you're supplementing vitamin D, which we'll talk about more in the carnivore section, make sure you're taking it with vitamin K2. This is non-negotiable, and it's something a lot of people miss. Vitamin D increases calcium absorption. Vitamin K2 directs that calcium into bones and teeth where it belongs and keeps it out of your arteries where it causes problems. The research on this pairing is solid. Look for MK7 form of K2. That's the most bioavailable form. Around 100 to 200 micrograms of K2 per day if you're supplementing significant amounts of D3. Sign number three: bone and joint pain/muscle aches. This one I want to handle carefully because mental health is real and complex, and I want to be very clear, I'm not saying vitamin D is a cure for clinical depression. It's not that simple. But here's what the research does show. Pretty consistently, vitamin D deficiency is significantly correlated with depression, seasonal affective disorder, and general mood instability. And the mechanistic reasons make sense. Vitamin D regulates the genes involved in serotonin and dopamine synthesis. Both of those neurotransmitters are load-bearing structures in how you feel from day to day. Your motivation, your pleasure response, your baseline mood, your ability to cope with stress. There's also a brain structure called the hypothalamus. It regulates mood, appetite, sleep, circadian rhythm, and it's absolutely packed with vitamin D receptors. When those receptors are chronically underactivated, hypothalamic function is impaired in ways that touch all of those things simultaneously. The seasonal component is important here too. Sunlight triggers vitamin D synthesis in your skin. People in northern latitudes, people who work indoors, people with darker skin all have higher baseline deficiency risk. And the seasonal dip in mood that a lot of people write off as just winter blues, that is largely a vitamin D story. What you can do today: morning sunlight. I know this sounds almost insultingly simple, but I want to give you the specific version. Within an hour of waking up, get 10 to 20 minutes of direct sunlight on as much skin as possible. Not through a window. Glass blocks UVB radiation, which is the wavelength that triggers vitamin D synthesis. Outside, arms and legs exposed if weather permits. This also has a separate benefit on circadian rhythm through your retinal light exposure, where it signals your brain that it's morning, suppresses melatonin, boosts cortisol appropriately for the start of the day, and sets your 24-hour clock. Do this for 2 weeks and tell me your morning mood hasn't shifted. Sign number four: slow wound healing and skin issues. This one surprises people. Vitamin D and your skin have a relationship that goes way back. Evolutionarily, your skin is literally where vitamin D was designed to be made. So it makes sense that the skin is one of the first places deficiency shows up visually. Vitamin D plays a direct role in the skin's immune response. It regulates keratinocyte proliferation. Those are the cells that make up most of your outer skin layer. When that regulation goes wrong, you get inflammatory skin conditions. There's pretty solid evidence linking vitamin D deficiency with worsening psoriasis, eczema, and acne. On the wound healing side, vitamin D upregulates the genes involved in producing new skin and in managing the inflammatory phase of healing. A cut that should be mostly healed in a week takes 2, a bruise that lingers, a scrape that stays red longer than it should. These aren't dramatic symptoms, but they're real signals. What you can do today. Look at your current diet and honestly assess your fat intake. This is foundational and I cannot emphasize it enough. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. It requires dietary fat to be absorbed in the intestine. If you're eating a low-fat diet, or if you've had your gallbladder removed, which significantly impairs fat digestion, your vitamin D absorption from both food and supplements is compromised. The solution is not complicated. Eat your vitamin D supplement with your fattiest meal of the day. Or, and this is the carnivore argument in a nutshell, eat food that comes pre-packaged with both vitamin D and the fat needed to absorb it, which is exactly what animal food does. Sign number 5, brain fog and cognitive slowness. The brain fog. Let me explain what's actually happening here, because brain fog sounds like a vague, made-up complaint, and it is absolutely not. Your brain is highly dependent on vitamin D for several functions. Number 1, neuroprotection. Vitamin D helps regulate the production of nerve growth factor, a protein that maintains existing neurons and supports the growth of new ones. Chronically low vitamin D means less neuroprotective support. Number 2, inflammation. Neuroinflammation, inflammation inside the brain, is now understood to be a major driver of cognitive symptoms. It's implicated in everything from depression to early cognitive decline. Vitamin D is a potent anti-inflammatory in the central nervous system. Without it, inflammatory processes run hotter and longer. Number 3, and this one is fascinating to me, vitamin D affects the expression of genes involved in the metabolism of amyloid beta. That's the protein that clumps into plaques in Alzheimer's disease. This is early research, and I want to be careful not to overstate it, but the association between vitamin D deficiency and cognitive decline in older adults is now very well established in the epidemiological literature. For you right now, in your 30s or 40s or 50s, what this means is the fog you're feeling isn't weakness. It's not laziness. It's a biological consequence of a nutritional gap that nobody told you about. What you can do today. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, the long-chain forms found in fatty fish and fish oil. Here's why I'm bringing this up here. Omega-3s and vitamin D work synergistically in the brain. They share anti-inflammatory pathways. They both support myelin integrity and the protective sheath around your nerve fibers. And so, if you're addressing vitamin D deficiency without adequate omega-3 intake, you're leaving a significant amount of benefit on the table. Target at least 1 to 2 grams of combined EPA and DHA per day. The best food sources: sardines, mackerel, salmon, wild caught when you can get it. If you're supplementing, look for a fish oil that clearly states the EPA and DHA amounts separately. You want those numbers combined to be at least 1 gram per serving. Sign number 6, metallic taste and loss of appetite. Okay, this last one, the metallic taste, the appetite going weird. People almost never connect this to vitamin D, and I understand why it seems so random, but stick with me. Vitamin D plays a role in regulating something called the renin-angiotensin system. It's a hormonal cascade that manages blood pressure, fluid balance, and kidney function. When vitamin D is deficient, the renin-angiotensin system becomes dysregulated. This affects how minerals, particularly calcium and phosphorus, are balanced in your blood and tissues. Those mineral imbalances affect taste perception. Your taste receptors are exquisitely sensitive to mineral concentrations. When something is off in that balance, you can get this persistent metallic quality to food, or food just tastes muted, or your appetite signals get scrambled, you're not hungry when you should be, or you're hungry in a disconnected way where nothing sounds good. This is also why people with chronic kidney issues experience metallic taste. The kidneys are deeply involved in vitamin D activation circulation, and mineral balance. And when that system is stressed, taste is one of the first things to go sideways. What you can do today. Zinc. Zinc is involved in taste and smell function directly. Zinc deficiency alone causes taste disturbances. But in this context, zinc is also a critical cofactor for vitamin D receptor signaling. Your vitamin D receptors are zinc-dependent proteins. Without adequate zinc, those receptors can't bind properly even when your vitamin D level looks okay on paper. Best food sources of zinc. Red meat is genuinely the best. Oysters have the highest concentration of any food. If you can get them fresh or even canned, they're extraordinary. Beef, lamb, dark poultry meat. This is another place where the carnivore diet has a significant structural advantage. We'll get to that in detail now. Segment 6, practical implementation, 2200 to 2400, practical mode. Clear and direct. So our okay. Let me give you something concrete to walk out of here with. If you want to use food to address vitamin D deficiency, here is a real framework. Anchor foods, eat these consistently. Fatty fish at least 3 times per week. Salmon, sardines, mackerel. If fresh isn't accessible, canned sardines and olive oil are genuinely one of the best foods on the planet for this purpose. Cheap, shelf-stable, extraordinary nutrient profile. Beef liver once or twice per week. If you hate the taste, and I get it, not everyone loves it, chicken liver is milder. Or you can buy desiccated liver capsules, which are a legitimate supplement option. Pasture-raised eggs daily. The yolk is where the nutrition is. Don't throw it away. Fatty cuts of grass-finished beef as your primary protein. Ribeye, short ribs, brisket. The fat is not the enemy. In this context, it is literally the delivery vehicle for your fat-soluble vitamins. Supplement intelligently. If your tested level is below 40 nanograms per milliliter, food alone is probably not going to get you there fast enough. Supplement with vitamin D3, not D2. Dosing depends on your current level and your body size, but 3,000 to 5,000 IUS per day is a reasonable starting point for most deficient adults. Always pair with K2, 100 to 200 micrograms of MK7. Take it with your fattiest meal. Retest in 3 months. Know your number. Adjust based on evidence, not guesswork. Sunlight, not optional. 10 to 30 minutes of midday sun on significant skin surface. So the UV index has to be high enough. In most of the continental US, that means April through October. In winter, especially north of Atlanta, supplementation is not a preference. It's a necessity. Segment 7, the close. Your kidneys can heal, 2400 to 2530. Here's what I want to leave you with. The human body has a truly remarkable capacity for repair when you give it what it needs and stop pouring gasoline on the fire. Vitamin D receptors, the ones in your muscle cells, your immune cells, your brain, your bones, they are responsive. When you start correcting your levels, when you start giving your body the cofactors it needs to actually use that vitamin D, things start to change. People feel it within weeks sometimes. More energy, clearer head, better mood, less pain. The science on vitamin D repletion is not subtle. Studies consistently show improvements in inflammatory markers, in immune function, in insulin sensitivity, in muscle strength, in mood scores. These are real measurable changes in real people who were deficient and then weren't. You're not broken. You're depleted. Those are very different things. So here's my challenge to you. And I'm serious about this. I want you to actually do this today, not think about doing it. Pick one thing from this video, just one. Order a vitamin D blood test if you haven't had one recently. You can even do it without a doctor's order now through direct-to-consumer lab services. Or go get a can of sardines, literally today. Or schedule 15 minutes of midday sunlight into your calendar for the next 7 days like it's a meeting. One thing, today, because the gap between knowing and doing is where people stay sick. And I think you came here today because some part of you recognized yourself in that symptom list at the beginning. And that recognition that this is literally me moment, that's the first step. Don't waste it. I'll see you in the next one.